Spider-Man is no more in Armor Wars issue 1. In Technopolis, Spider-Man swings into action, taking out some of Wilson Fisk's goons, who are trying to take out Spider-Man after he uncovered something of Fisk's of great importance. Escaping the goons, Spider-Man takes a break on the side of a building. Here he is confronted by someone mysterious. As day becomes night, Baron Tony Stark tells Pepper about a dream he had where Arno Stark, his brother, and him were playing in a field. He says the weirdest thing about this dream is that they weren't fighting and that there was no armor or tech to be seen. It was just them as kids outside their armor, playing as kids. Their talk is cut short when Tony has to deal with some Stark business. In the Hall of Order and Law, the world's Thor, who happens to be James Rhodes, is given a report by one of the female officers. Deputy Happy Hogan approaches him, saying that he's got a case for him, and it's a juicy one. In the workshop of Kiri Oshiro, Tony is trying to buy Kiri's company before Arno is able to buy it out from under him. Kiri isn't interested in Tony Stark's thinly veiled threats about Arno destroying her company. She asks why Stark doesn't just arrest his brother, but he won't because he is trying to in some way honour his father, as his father saw competition between the two brothers as something healthy and something needed. As they continue to talk, Arno watches from afar. 6 minutes later, after Tony leaves, Kiri is contacted by Rhodes, who wants to talk to her about her boyfriend Peter Ulrich, who has turned up dead and as Spider-Man. Rhodes says that he was found dead and has questions regarding him and his double life. So yeah, Armor Wars. Definitely a bit different than the old school Armor Wars. This one's, brother against brother, which is interesting since we have actually seen Arno Stark for a long time, since Marvel, the first couple of issues of Marvel now. He's sort of disappeared on us. So it's good to see that he's back, and him and Tony are the reason this whole Armor Wars is fighting. They're fighting each other. And what's really cool about this world is that suits of armor and like Iron Man armors seem to be an everyday thing. Everyone wears one, and there's a cool line from Tony who's like, I can't imagine a world where we don't have all this tech and armor. In the Hall of Order and Law, Grand Marshal Rhodes and Dr. Anthony Druid begin their autopsy of Peter Ulrich, the Spider-Man. As they determine he was killed by a blast to the chest, Rhodes says how much Peter helped him out as Spider-Man, and this is personal since he was dating a friend of his niece's. They remove his armor and try to find more evidence on what killed him, but since everyone is being kept alive by their armor, stripping it off means total decomposure of the body. Rhodes calls his niece Lila, who is working in Kiri's workshop. He checks in on them, asking how Kiri is taking Peter's death. Rhodes thinks that because Kiri is continuing on with her work like nothing ever happened, she's due for a meltdown and it's going to be a big one. So he wants Lila to be there for her as a friend. High in the sky, Stingray glides down into the city. At Arnowhere Tower, Arno Stark talks with Wilson Fisk about an armor he has built. Fisk asks why Oshiro's research is important for their cause. Arno goes on to explain that the research is the future of the city, and having it will mean he will gain the upper hand over his brother Baron Tony Stark. As they talk, Arno's spy Stingray breaks into Kiri's workshop to test the girl's security features, which are really considerable but are no match for Stingray. Lila, however, proves to be more than a match for this intruder, and Kiri is alerted to the fight and activates the massive power armor she has been working on. She uses the armor to grab Stingray and crush him. In the castle of Baron Stark, Rhodes tells Stark on what he has found in the autopsy of Peter Ulrich, saying that he was infected by a virus that linked him with his suit, which made the suit record all the events in Peter's life and death. He is currently repairing the damaged sections of the memory, and when they are finished they will know who killed him and why, and who spread the illness that keeps them trapped in their armors. So yeah, this is kind of an alright issue. We got a little bit more explanation on this whole thing of why Spider-Man got killed and everything. It's obviously some big ploy by, Arno Stark and Wilson Fisk and everything. So it'll be interesting to see what it is, and whether it's maybe it's like the extremis virus or something that has been modified to sort of keep people in these armors and everything. Blasting towards his brother's skyscraper, Baron Tony Stark has to deal with the building's defenses, which consist of lasers and countless machine men. On the other side of the city, Kiri mourns over Peter's grave. Rhodes arrives, needing to talk with her. Rhodes tells her that Peter gained the Spider-Man armor after being affected by the spider virus, and that Ben Ulrich
his uncle was killed for almost finding out who caused this virus. Rhodes also led on that he told Baron Stark about the virus and who might have killed Peter. Tony, still fighting off Arno's defenses, moves towards his brother's building. Arriving, him and his brother fight, leading to them both talking on the streets. After mourning Peter, Kiri goes straight back to work at the chagrin of her friend Leela. Kira makes some weapons and vows to stop who murdered Peter. Going to the Fisk estate, Rhodes confronts Wilson and his men, leading to a standoff between Fisk's men and Rhodes and his War Machine team. So yeah, stuff is really starting to heat up in Armor Wars. Big turf wars are about to erupt and everything. I guess Rhodes is going after Fisk because he knows like Fisk is involved with this whole virus thing, and he was the one that I guess killed Peter, or it was like one of Fisk's men or something, because Fisk doesn't like getting his hands dirty with, you know, stuff like that. So really cool to see what happens, and I guess like the stuff with Tony and Arno, I guess they probably will end up joining forces maybe, because it sort of kind of seemed like they, like when they fell to the ground, they just started laughing with each other and everything, and I guess they sort of started to realize like, why are we fighting again, you know, stuff like that. So they could potentially join forces against Wilson Fisk. That'd be pretty. The war between Kingpin and Rhodes and his war machines continues in the streets of Technopolis. As they fight, Fisk taunts Rhodes. When Rhodes says that he is the one responsible for Spider-Man's death, Fisk is confused, saying he wasn't the one responsible. But before he can do anything, Rhodes activates his hammer's lightning powers. Putting their differences behind them, Tony tells his brother Arno to lay off Kiri and her work down at her metal workshop. Back at the battle, Fisk has been defeated. He tells Jim that he has no idea what is going on, and when Jim asks him what is going on, Fisk stays tight-lipped and says that he didn't kill Spider-Man. Leaving Fisk to die, Rose heads off. At the Hall of Justice, Amadeus Cho has been putting together Spider-Man's fragmented memory core. Jim reviews the memories, and as he does, Tony arrives and kills Amadeus, before revealing that he was the one behind killing Spider-Man. Jim puts Tony under arrest, but before he can actually arrest him, Tony freezes Jim's armor, which he built, but Jim activated the Thor core beacon, which calls more Thor members to his position. Tony isn't too worried, since all their armors are frozen as well back at the Hall of Justice. Tony says that his father was the one who infected the city with the virus, and then when Jim asks him about Spider-Man and his death, Tony kills him, but before dying, Rhodes has been transmitting Tony's little speech to Kiri. Angered at her uncle's death, Kiri activates the project she has been working on, which are two massive Iron Man-like suits. So yeah, I guess next issue will kind of be like the whole culmination of this whole Armor Wars. Armor Wars issue 5. Stark, along with his brother Arno and his armors, fight Kiri and Lila, who are piloting two massive armors. Tony tries to reason with them as they continued their attack. Arno brings his machine men to deal with the remainder of Fisk's men. When Kiri asks why Tony did all this, Tony tells her about when he met with his brother during his last attack, saying that Arno went too far when he hired an assassin to kill Spider-Man and attack Kiri, since Tony needs them alive since there's something inside their armors she was developing that relates to Howard Stark. Stark tells Kiri that Howard was responsible for the virus. Since he wanted people to buy his armors, he infected the city with the virus, making them buy his armors. The fights between him and Arno were all fabricated to cover everything up. As Tony spills his secrets, his suits begin to malfunction thanks to a virus Kiri uploaded while they were fighting. Kiri and Lila attack Tony and Arno, throwing them around the city. Later on, the Thor Corps arrive and arrest Tony and Arno. Happy is appointed the new city marshal, and Pepper uses her power to help the city after her husband's betrayal. Kiri becomes a protector of the city, along with Lila, who takes over her uncle's Thor role. So yeah, that's it for Armor Wars, for Secret Wars Armor Wars. A really good series, I really enjoyed it. It was all about greed in the end. All about greed from Howard Stark, you know, he wanted people to buy his suits, so he infected this whole city with a virus that the only sort of cure is his suits, and that's like greed upon greed. And his sons obviously found out about that, and it also benefited them since they took over, and you know, they didn't want that to end, so they just kept on with it. And you know, Spider-Man obviously found out about this and had to kill him off and everything. Really cool series, I really enjoyed it. I didn't know where it was really going
towards the end there, but they pulled it through, and it had sort of a nice ending as well. And for once, you know, it's a series where people weren't trying to, you know, build up an army or something to try and fight God King Doom. You know, it was sort of a self-contained story, really. Yeah, a happy kind of ending. You know, Tony and Anna are off to prison, probably off to the Shield, maybe, and then, you know, Kiri and Lila become, you know, the sort of new protectors of the city, and probably going to change it all and everything. Probably that might actually end up coming into like the whole God King thing. They might become a bit more sort of lenient and everything, and sort of kind of go against him. We don't know. We won't know until, I guess, Secret Wars wraps up. So yeah, pretty cool story. I really like this. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Thank you for watching the comic book review, guys, and if you are a fan of comic books, you might want to check out the service called Comic Bento. For as little as $17.50 a month, you can actually get a whole crate filled with comics. From Marvel to DC to Image to IDW, it's all here. So if you're interested, check the link in the description below and let us know what you think about some of the monthly comics that you're going to get.